Hi again, it's Mark Norton here. You've been getting your own risks down, but now it's time for the hospital to do their more detailed risk reduction on the things that you can't easily sort out for yourself. And this is the pre-op assessment. In my 24 years as a surgeon, I've seen this as the most critical safety filter we have to reduce the very most serious life-threatening risks of heart problems, embolisms, strokes, and other cancellations on the day of the surgery, but because people are on medication which conflicts with our ability to operate safely. If we don't get the green light here, the surgery is not going to happen. So let's take the mystery out of it, what happens, who does it, and most importantly, why it's done. So firstly, the when and the who. It's usually about 2 to 6 weeks before your surgery. It may actually get started at the time of your initial assessment by your surgeon if they've got that facility in place. You'll spend most of your time with a pre-op nurse specialist. So these aren't just clerks who are filling out forms, they're highly trained gatekeepers, and they're looking for any red flags that might make your anesthetic or your new hip risky. So they do a medical deep dive on you. Firstly, they'll take your medical history. They'll go through your entire medical life story with you. And why do they need to do it? Well, they need to know about heart issues, asthma, sleep apnea, or any previous bad reactions to anesthetics. So bring a printed list of every medication you take and the dose, and any allergies which you think you might have. And this must include natural herbal supplements like St. John's wort, garlic oil, or ginseng. Many patients don't realize that these can actually thin your blood and increase your risk of bleeding during and after surgery. So we need to be able to tell you exactly which ones to stop and when to stop them. Now they'll then do a physical MOT, which is basically a battery of tests. They'll do blood tests, and these aren't just checking your blood group. They're looking for anemia, and that's a low hemoglobin level, and that's often due to low iron. So if your blood levels and your iron levels are low, your heart has to work much harder during surgery and your recovery will be twice as slow. If we find it at the pre-assessment, you can be given iron tablets as soon as possible so that you're topped up by the day of surgery. Now, I did advise you previously on this, so hopefully you'll have taken control of this long before and you won't run into problems at this late stage. You'll also have your kidney function checked, and this ensures that you can safely process the anesthetic drugs and the antibiotics which you will be given. Some hospitals will also look at your liver function, so make sure your alcohol intake has dropped to not show up any red flags here. They'll do MRSA swabs, and this is a quick, painless swab with a cotton earbud inside of your nose and groin, looking for any nasty bacteria which could get into your wound. So they're looking for the staph bacteria in particular. We discussed this in the hygiene episode, and 86% of infections coming from your own skin or your nose. If you're a carrier, you'll be given a 5-day decolonization kit to try to fix it before you arrive at the hospital. But hopefully you've already taken my advice on skin hygiene and you're already all clear. Next, they'll do your blood pressure and an ECG. They'll get you to take off your top, lie back on the examination couch and put stickers across your chest, and that'll get a heart rhythm trace. So they've got to check that your heart pump is regular, and if the ECG shows a flicker of irregularity, that would rather be found out earlier and get the anaesthetist to check it, and if necessary, a cardiologist to sign you off, rather than find it out while you're under the anesthetic. They're also going to ask you for a urine sample, so make sure you've had a drink before you go in for your pre-assessment. This is a vital check. They're going to be checking for any potential hidden infections. Urinary tract infections are an absolute no-go for joint replacement. Bacteria that are in your urine can travel through your blood and land straight onto your brand new hip at the time of surgery. So any urinary tract infections will be treated first, and they'll only operate on you when that's completely clear. Okay, so you'll have a conversation also with a physiotherapist and an occupational therapist. They'll normally measure up how your hip moves now, and they'll probably teach you how to use the crutches before you're groggy from the surgery. They'll go through what needs to be dealt with in your home, and sort out any aids that you might need to be placed in your home. And then finally, they'll go through any preoperative fasting instructions. And this is one of the rules that you absolutely can't break. So you must be starved for 6 hours for food. That includes milk in tea or coffee, and even chewing gum, which stimulates excess saliva. For water, it's 2 hours for most hospitals, but some let you have sips of water until you're picked up to go down for surgery. And why is that necessary? Well, most hospitals use a spinal anesthetic for hip surgery, but it doesn't always work 100%. So the anaesthetist may have to give you a general anesthetic rather than cancel your operation. If you do need a general, and there's anything in your stomach when you go under, it can reflux backwards and then go down into your lungs. And this is potentially life-threatening. So if you decide to have a cheeky piece of toast on the morning of your surgery, you really need to tell us, because it could actually kill you. So we'd much rather delay your surgery by a few hours than put your life at risk. Okay, so my own experience, during my own pre-op, my blood pressure was a bit high. Likely just a white coat syndrome, because I knew it was coming my way, but because we had a 4-week window, we could easily monitor it and keep it on track. I've got a Garmin home blood pressure monitor, which I then used every night at home, and I could see that when I was relaxed, my blood pressure was just fine. So I took that tracking information on my Garmin app in with me for the anaesthetist to see on the morning of my surgery, in case my blood pressure was up on the morning of admission. Now, the blood results take a day or two to come back from your test. So if there are any problems, you may not know about them until a few days later, but be assured the team will check them and let you know if there's anything that's severe enough to risk delaying or cancelling your surgery. So this is your day to ask questions. Any questions you've got, like when can I drive afterwards, how are you going to manage my pain, don't be shy. If you've got any concerns about the risks or complications that have come through on the information sheet or the consent form which the hospital or your surgeon gave you, then now's the time to ask about it. If you're worried about having a blood transfusion, ask about that too. And then once that's all complete and you've been given the green light from your hospital, it's time to get practical. So in the next episode, we're going to go through logistical preparation and what kit to organize, what to pack, how to set up your house, and the essential bits and bobs you'll need for a smooth recovery. Obviously, if your health changes in the lead up to your surgery, after your pre-assessment, you must get hold of your surgeon's secretary or the pre-assessment team and let them know immediately. So drop any pre-op questions in the comments, share, like, and subscribe if you're finding this helpful for your preparation. Take care.